every time we're trying to do anything, especially with the pictures. So it's going to remain there for the moment. But okay, so I am also in the Honors College with Megan and Daniel, and we have, well, right now we have 3 different cohort programs. You heard about change makers. We also have Quill and Honor Scholars and Global Citizen Scholars. So each of those cohorts takes a first-year experience course within Honors, and that is the Johnson City Exploration to Impact course. So it's a place as text pedagogy, which involves walkabouts. That's a National Collegiate Honors Council pedagogy they developed like 50 years ago, using a city or a place as a text. And so one of the methods to do that is for sending students out on walkabouts. Now, in their pedagogy, they typically will send students just wherever with no instruction, no theme, no thematic emphasis, whatever. But I feel like for first semester, first year students, they maybe need a little bit more of a framework. And also, especially in particular, these Quill and Honor Scholars, because obviously they're pre-med students, they're very interested in all things medical. And so they really want to tie their learning into those interests and kind of build up, everything we're trying to do with those students from the moment they set foot on campus is to help them have a really outstanding medical school application portfolio. So I kind of themed their walkabouts. I have 15 students in this cohort each year. So I put them into groups of 5, and I assign the groups so that they can, all get to know each other, and not just choose, their friends. And so for each of the 5 walkabouts, 3 groups of 5 students each went to 3 different locations. So I gave them higher education in the Appalachian Highlands. One group walked around ETSU. They actually saw some stuff that you wouldn't necessarily think they would have discovered. And they're first semester students. And this happens like that was the first walkabout. So giving them a walkabout to ETSU is not as silly as it sounds. I mean, they haven't spent much time on this campus at that point. And they found their way into the old campus center and took a bunch of amazing pictures, which I wish I had included, but because they like all these like abandoned things like a women's studies mug and that they took, which was good. I mean, it's like otherwise it was just going to get destroyed when the wrecking ball came. But they found all sorts of stuff. Oh, they discovered where the bowling alley was, and that bowling alley had previously been like the anatomy lab. It turned out to be quite interesting. But anyway, so ETSU was one of the sites, Northeast State Community College, and then Kingsport Center for Higher Education. So I took more of a Tri-Cities theme than just a Johnson City. Their next walkabouts was downtowns. And so I had them go to downtown Bristol, downtown Johnson City, downtown Kingsport, just observe whatever, they saw, report back on. They just also took pictures. Then neighborhoods. The neighborhoods one, that one did focus on Johnson City. So I sent them to like the Boones Creek neighborhood, the Tree Streets, and South Side. Green spaces, they went to the Greenbelt, Kingsport, Greenbelt, Tweetsy Trail in Johnson City, and Steel Creek Park in Bristol. And then healthcare in the Appalachian Highlands, I sent one group to, there's an area called Midway Medical Park in Bristol. It's where the hospital is and some other medical offices. The Johnson City Medical Center. And where did they end up in Kingsport? That one I'm not remembering now, but they went somewhere in Kingsport. And they went in, they just, it's really interesting, like, because these are like, they're kids, really, right? They're 18, 17, 18. But they're in groups of 5, and they're really quite confident because like they went into the hospital. Like I didn't actually send them to Johnson City Medical Center. I just said, do the medical stuff in Johnson City. But they went into the hospital, they got onto patient floors. They couldn't go in every area, but they explained what they were doing, and like people were really open to it. They got to see some really cool stuff at Northeast State on that walkabout. Some really cool like aviation stuff that they have that I didn't even know about, even though it's just right next to an airport, so it kind of makes sense. But anyway, so that was the walkabout. That's the first thing. And then I'm also having them do a series of readings from like kind of lay person readings on medicine. I've taken them out from the New Yorker. There's like the Annals of Medicine or the personal essays. Sometimes it'll be medically related. So they're reading those along the way as well. And then, so they're doing these walkabouts through the course of the semester. But another thing that I asked them to do was each student needed to interview a doctor in the Tri-Cities, or somebody who had been educated in the Tri-Cities. They could be practicing elsewhere. So they had 15 different interviews. They were asking them not only about their, kind of their path into medicine, but also what they feel are the greatest healthcare challenges in the region. And so that was 15 different perspectives on that. Of course, there was a lot of overlap. And so then I had the students get together, and again, I assigned them to groups of 3 this time. And so then they did 5 presentations on the interview results. So they kind of, condensed those into 5 presentations. And then from that, we then just, we invited the doctors who they'd interviewed to come to class. Not all of them came, but some did come to watch. So that was cool. Then after that, we took the next class period. These are like 3-hour class periods once a week on Friday. So we took the next class period to kind of go over what they had discovered, what they presented, and then distill that into like what could be hypothetical patient cases. So they created 3 patient cases. An adolescent who fainted at school. Turned out he was an immigrant. He was being bullied. He was kind of overweight, so he'd stopped. So he wasn't eating, and that's actually why he fainted. But some of the issues that came up, and I was trying to encourage them to, use their detective skills and to find out things. I mean, this is all imaginary. Of course, we're not really sending these first semester students into a hospital. We created these, but they had to imagine themselves as medical students, going into a hospital room and being like, hey, what are you here for? What happened? So over the course of the interaction with the imagined adolescent who fainted, they found out that his parents both worked fast food jobs and worked a lot. They didn't give him healthy food because they didn't have time to prepare healthy food. He had a lot of stress about translating. He had to translate for them. He was being bullied because he was a little overweight, which is because of the lack of access to healthy food. And so they figured all that out. And then the young woman with the broken wrist, that one she came in with a broken wrist, but it ended up because she had been abused by her partner, which of course domestic abuse is an issue in the area. But also it turned out she didn't know she was pregnant, but they found out she was pregnant, and she was experiencing addiction. So that was obviously going to be a big issue for her. So opioid addiction was one of the main healthcare challenges that came out. The veteran with chest pain, it turns out he was homeless. He thought he was having a heart attack. It turned out it wasn't a heart attack. It was unmanaged anxiety and PTSD from his time in the military. And so they presented these hypothetical patient cases at an end of the semester event that we had for the students, the doctors they interviewed, their parents, and faculty and staff from Quillen and the Honors College. So it was about 75 people or so that they presented to, and in groups of 5. So there were 3 presentations on each of those cases, and they did a phenomenal job. They really did. Because again, doctors were in the room, and a lot of the doctors were like, that's what we did in medical school. That was amazing. Now, of course, these were not real patients. We, didn't have access to real patients and wouldn't at this point, so they make them up. But they did a good job, and it really, it's good preparation for them, because again, that is exactly what they'll be doing as medical students, usually in their second year when they're starting their rotations. So that's just, well, this is both groups. We're in the second year of this program only, not the third, like with change makers, but so we have right now 23 students. We have 8 in the first cohort and 15 in the second. So that's all of them at that banquet. Thank you.